Oh, I just wanted to take a moment and say this is a Mike was right moment. We're talking about the Ukraine-Russian conflict. And a few months ago, there was some content creator calls himself an anarcho-Bidenist. Can't remember their name. They were saying how they want to sanction Russia and starve them out, basically. And I said, in response to that, I subtweeted that and said, that's actually the inverse. Russia has the resources. We profit from unequal exchange. They have the raw resources that have the value that we need to put into our industrial economies. And without those raw resources, you know, we're the ones that are fucked, not them. What are they going to miss out on? Some guy in circular glasses named Dieter in Berlin is instructing the Moscow oligarch that his office needs to be a shade of chartreuse in order to relieve his tension and keep feng shui in order. Like what the fuck are we providing the Russians? Like, give me a break. They're providing oil and natural gas and grain, you know, the things you need. And here is Russia just won a major victory.
Russian forces are expected to set up their offensive after claiming to. Russian forces are expected to set up their offensive after claiming to have taken control of Ukraine's easternmost province. Right. Holly Williams is in southern Ukraine with the latest on the fighting there. Holly, good morning.
Good morning. The loss of the city of Lysychansk to Russia is a big blow to the Ukrainians and gives Russia yet another foothold to grab more territory in the east, which is the focus of Moscow's invasion. After weeks of intense fighting, Ukraine's military said its forces withdrew from Lysychansk because continuing to defend their positions would have had, quote, fatal consequences. Now, Ukraine has put up a surprisingly effective defense during this war, aided by nearly $7 billion in US military assistance since the invasion began, as well as some major failings on the part of Russian forces. But make no mistake, the Russians are seizing towns and cities. And next in Russia's firing line could be the city of Slavyansk, where there's been heavy shelling. In a new video message released overnight, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky vowed that his military would return to Lysychansk. We will rebuild the walls. We will win back the land, he said. Ukraine does not give anything up. Ed.
Holly Williams in Ukraine, thank you so much.
Germany's union head warns of collapse of entire industries. Buckle up, Buttercup. 2022-2023 is about to get real bad. Buckle up, Buttercup. Top German industries could face collapse because of cuts in the supplies of... Okay, hold on. Maybe I can listen.
Germany's union head warns of collapse.
Damn. It's a fucking robot. Damn it. Russian natural gas. The country's top union official warned before crisis talks with Chancellor Olaf Scholz starting Monday. Because of the gas bottlenecks, entire industries are in danger of permanently collapsing. Aluminum, glass, the chemical industry, said Yasmin Achimi, the head of the German Federation of Trade Unions, in an interview with the newspaper Bild am Sonntag. Such a collapse would have massive consequences for the entire economy and jobs in Germany. The energy crisis is already driving inflation to record highs, she said. Achimi is calling for a price cap on energy for households. The rising costs for CO2 emissions mean further burdens for households and companies, Achimi added. The crisis could lead to social and labor unrest, she said. Gas shock. Potential German GDP losses due to production cutbacks and the case of natural gas rationing. She's predicting fourth quarter losses of 2% negative GDP, Q1, 2, 3 of negative 8.6% GDP. This is an absolute depression going forward for years. Economics Minister Robert Habeck said on Saturday that the government is working on ways to address the surging costs both utilities and their customers face. Earlier, he had warned that the squeeze on Russian gas supplies risks creating deeper turmoil, likening the situation to the role of Lehman Brothers in triggering the financial crisis in 2008. Russia has reduced... I mean, do you see... I mean, like, are you fucking... You think Joe Biden is going to be able to win on Roe v. Wade when we have gas lines that are a mile long at every gas station and gas is $12 a gallon? Or even if we just have a mild recession, gas prices remain roughly where they are, and we just have a recession, and we have inflation. Russia has reduced shipments through Nord Stream pipeline by 60%, and the pipeline is scheduled for a full shutdown this month for maintenance. Germany has raised doubts that Nord Stream will resume supply after that. Okay, thank you. I'm not going to continue. Thank you.
Germany risks a cascade of utility failures, economy chief says.
I mean, guys, we're in deep shit. We are in deep shit. And this is the type of stuff that I don't even know what to say. Chat, when I die, I want to be whisked to heaven like police arresting a white mass shooter. I can't imagine a more comfortable and relaxing experience than a white mass shooter being arrested.
Joining me here in Highland Park is CNN's Josh Campbell for the latest on this aftermath that's still all around us, and this investigation still very much underway, Josh.
That's right, and one witness described this as a battlefield who was here whenever these shots rang out. This obviously, John, a community that has mixed feelings today. I was just talking with the local resident. He was out walking his dog. This was his third shooting that he's been associated with. He said mixed feelings because they're obviously happy that this person has been caught, that he's now in custody, that a threat is off the street, but obviously in mourning now as well, with 6 residents lost, dozens more injured. Of course, this happened yesterday morning just after the start of this July 4th parade, one of many that were probably going on around the country. Shots rang out. We saw people fleeing. There were hundreds of people fleeing for their life. Authorities recovered what they're describing as a high-powered rifle on one of the rooftops. They were working to try to trace that weapon. We eventually saw them actually put out the name of this person of interest they were calling at the time, as well as the description of the vehicle. And it was several hours after that shooting that police got their big tip. It was a patrol officer about 5 miles from here, spotted a vehicle that matched the description of the suspect, tried to execute a traffic stop. They went on a short police chase, and the suspect came to a halt. We saw this flood of police officers. He was taken into custody without incident. Now, I was over just on the other side here whenever this was going down, and I started to see police rushing to their vehicles. These so-called Bearcats, the tactical vehicles, were rolling out of here very quickly. So I followed them and actually rolled up. I was the first reporter there as they were working to process the scene. Of course, the vehicle, they didn't know if there were any incendiary devices, if there was still a threat there, but obviously a very harrowing situation there for police as well, not knowing what they were dealing with. We're told that they took the person into custody without incident. The investigation right now into him continues. We know he's in his early 20s. He's a resident of this area, but they're working to try to figure out what was his background, what was this motive. That investigation's underway.
Yeah, they say the shootings were intentional but random, which is an interesting choice of words. And Josh, I also understand they're going through these videos, a lot of music videos that this person of interest had posted. What are they seeing inside these videos?
That's right. Well, intentional but random. He wanted to kill a bunch of people. He didn't care who he was trying to kill, which obviously shows you just the dangerous nature of this individual, one of many shooters that we've seen across the country. And as often the case, whenever law enforcement starts looking into the background, they start to see these troubling signs. With this individual, they saw a number of online posts, including this music video animation, which was one of many. And one, you actually see a person that depicts or resembles this person conducting a shooting, trying to attack people. So obviously very troubling there. I got a note from a law enforcement source as we were trying to gather all this information who said, hey, here's some stuff online. You want to grab this now because we're about to take it down, obviously becoming part of that investigation. They have a lot of work to do. On its face, you see some of these troubling signs. Obviously, it's clearly this is a person who was troubled, but their work isn't done. They want to ensure that
troubled.
There weren't any other associates, maybe someone who might have known that this was about to happen. And then
so like I think one of the things is like this shit is so pathetic, man. This shit is so pathetic. The American media, it's been systematized. The consumption of these mass shootings have become just another treat, just another block of entertainment. And people, what do they want to be in America? Famous. They want to have a media career. They want to have an influencer job. They want to be a streamer. They want to be known on 4chan. Like, that's literally the number one and only dream of every American, to be famous. White criminals are always troubled. Yeah, it's
the nexus of the weapon itself. How did the shooter actually get this weapon? All that's ongoing right now.
All right, Josh Campbell, you're working the scene both on the ground and on the phones. Really appreciate you being here. Terrific reporting. Thank you.
The fuck are you
Brianna?
asking? Oh my God. Odds.
And joining us now to dig deeper into the investigation is former FBI agent and author of Compromised, Peter Strzok.
No
Peter,
worries,
what
Space
questions
Cowboy.
do you have right now as you're looking at this investigation?
Well, Brianna, I think as Josh said in the segment just now, there is a lot of work still to be done on the law enforcement front. Certainly, any number of things about the suspect, his background, what he might have said or planned, whether in fact this was random, how he came about to buy that weapon, whether he did it days before the shooting, whether he had it months or years before, people he was in contact with, folks that might have been talking with him, certainly anybody who might have been working with him or helping him, but also what caused him to go down this path, whether there was any sort of mental issues or whether he was
Every single time. You know, like I'm starting to get nervous of going like, look, there's the mass shootings in America, but not other places. Because I feel like as hard as it is to get guns in other in European countries, the amount of cultural pressure that America is exerting on the rest of the world may start to create copycat shit where people do mass shootings in Europe just to be famous, copycatting the mass shooters in the US. And that is what I think is the next shoe to drop. Is just more mass shootings everywhere because our cultural hegemony continues. Why do people want? I mean, I don't get it, man.
radicalized or motivated by some other things. All of these different things, talking to people, reviewing video footage, going to gun dealers, all of these are the activities that I would expect that law enforcement not only has been doing over the past 24 hours or so, but also will be doing in the days and weeks ahead.
You know, Peter, his family reported no warning signs, but I know what he posted on social media. I know you've seen it. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I think it's hard to say what somebody is doing if they are living alone. You know, he's an adult at this point. He was not, living in the house with family. It was the kind of thing that if you were online, certainly, and you're living alone, if you're not posting under your true name, it's very difficult to see in some cases. And so the troubling aspect of this is that we're seeing a pattern where as shooters become, as they are known, as people dig into social media, we're able to go back and see indications of descriptions of wanting to engage in violence, but it is generally both anonymous and in many ways non-specific. So it's very difficult in many of these cases that, yes, we can see in retrospect that there are these signs, but it's very difficult if there's this question of how do you monitor things in real time to get ahead of it? That's a very, very difficult question.
Yeah. How do you tell the difference between something that is alarming and something that is truly threatening? It may be impossible in some cases. Peter, thank you so much. We always appreciate your expertise.
The American brain rot continues to be exported. Try not to get doomer. Okay, I'm trying not to. I am. How do I put this? How do I put this to explain it? Have you ever played chess, chat? And you're playing chess and you blunder a piece. You know, you don't get anything for it. You just didn't see that diagonal attack, or you just didn't see you just didn't see it. You look through all the moves and you just missed an obvious that the square was guarded. You just missed it. You play the piece. They take the piece. You're just down a full piece. You got nothing for it. In fact, you probably helped their development with the blunder. It was that bad. The piece that took your piece is actually even better. You moved it to a better square. That's what it feels like right now. It's like 99 times out of 100, this game is lost. Do I really want to spend the next half an hour trying to battle myself out of this game? The only issue is there's no other board. There's no other game. You resign this game, you're resigning life. There's nothing. It's amazing that there are so many parallels between the desire to be an influencer and mass shooting culture online. Obviously not a statement about the majority of influence, but rather that online culture and the general level of violence and apathy in modern society, and of course, easy access to weapons. What I would say is, like, influencer culture is inherently a sociopathic capitalistic culture. And this is something that I've learned, is that no one, almost no one, is not, who's an influencer, is not a sociopath narcissist. Just remember that. Just remember that. There's a few people that I like, but for the most part, that's how people operate here. It's purely capitalist logic. That's what the internet is. The internet is the ability, it is the systematization of neoliberal brain. Just look at the way the internet is constructed. Everything is about building your own personal bubble of consumption and thought, and actualizing the individual to the maximum possible degree. Basically making you a capitalist orb. It's bad, man. It's bad. At least this is the way Web 2.0 works. And it's bad, man. The forced competition for clout incentivizes sociopathy. Oh, absolutely. Also, I also think that it doesn't work because there's infinite number of people that are willing to be psychopaths and willing to sacrifice others for their own gain, that it doesn't actually, like, losing your morals doesn't actually advantage you much. Ironically, it may be the people that resist the pressures of the platforms that do the best because they maintain those connections with others, or the people that are best able to hide it, I guess. Is a machine to fuel your own ego? The idealistic notion that the internet would be this place for great discourse and learning. This was created under a capitalist structure. It incentivizes exactly. And it's like with me, you know, I don't know. It's just frustrating. You know, it's very frustrating. Influence culture is extremely low on the influence of these type of events. Hyper idealization enabled by numerous internet message boards, social media sites, and even literally mainstream media. Rapidly spreading fascist, racist, homophobic ideas is more so to blame. Of course, I agree with you 100% about that. I'm just saying that the drive that motivates influencer culture is the same drive that influences all of that, which is like the American, you know how in a Buddhist culture, enlightenment is the ultimate goal, you know, in the Buddhist religion, you want to reach nirvana. In America, the highest possible position is media job. That's nirvana in America. Media job. People don't just want the bag, they want the media job. Because if people who have the bag, they don't sit back in privacy and enjoy the nature in the Hamptons or in the Alps or whatever. The richest of the rich, they're like they're like starting fucking reality TV shows and crap. They're spending their money on getting influencer cred. It's insane. Well, that was an interesting 4th of July. I think it really felt like, maybe this is me, but it really felt like, and maybe this has always existed and I just never picked up on it, but it really felt like everybody was going through the motions. It felt like there was just no humanity, no passion, no belief in what we were doing. It's just going through the old motions. There was just a palpable sense of alienation, you know? And just like really not, maybe this is just all internally derived, but it just felt like it. If you don't know what we're talking about, well, yesterday there was a mass shooting, and then there was another shooting that's a little bit less clear what happened. But this happened in Philadelphia, and it's funny because, and this is not funny, but do you guys remember when I talked about how I was in one of the years I went to the fireworks show in Pittsburgh? There was a huge stampede of people who thought there was like a mass shooting happening. Did you know about this? Is 10 years ago. 10 fucking years ago. There wasn't actually a shooting, but at the drop of a hat, the crowd is ready to flee. So this was in Philadelphia. According to the police, there was a shooting that injured 2 police officers, grazed and winged, as they say. This was Philadelphia on the 4th of July. can see as the fireworks show is going on, and you know, Philadelphia, the seat of the revolution.
I'm getting the whole thing on video.
People are fleeing for their lives.
What are they saying? The whole parkway just completely cleared. Still a lot of people there. A fire? That's a fire? Or no,
XV Collage, thank you for the tier 1. That's a beautiful fireworks show, by the way, in Philadelphia. Those people couldn't get a chance to take a look at that. Mayor of Philadelphia said he's looking forward to not being mayor anymore. I mean, like, what, Mayor Kinney is going to go work as some sort of lobbyist or, you know, become, you know, some no-show job with a big law firm or, you know, gonna make some good money. Why the fuck does he want to be mayor? Go live in art house. D from Benjamin Franklin Parkway during reported active shooter tonight during the fireworks show. And that's just kind of the standard shit, you know? I get to finally be done pretending to give a shit, and now I can cash in every establishment dem upon retirement. Yeah, I mean, that's true. And this is the leadership we have, man. I mean, they're just pathetic losers. This is I mean, even MSNBC is starting to get it. MSNBC is starting to get it. Even lib media is starting to like look sideways and go, are we really going to do nothing as everything collapses? I don't know, chat. I mean, maybe this is just me, but it feels like, and you can tell me if this is a total weirdo opinion, but it feels like Americanness is falling to the wayside. It really feels like American identity as an operative political idea is falling away.
We've just concluded the most consequential Supreme Court term, certainly since Bush v. Gore 22 years ago, arguably since ever. The 6-3 conservative majority court handed down huge decisions just within the last week of its term, limiting the authority of the Environmental Protection Agency to regulate carbon emissions, making it harder for states to keep guns off the streets by massively expanding the reach of the Second Amendment and overturning 50 years of precedent by ending the federal constitutional right for a woman to control her own reproductive health. The court also agreed to hear a case that could give state legislatures new powers over federal elections, potentially setting up exactly the kind of power grab that Trump and his cronies were trying to pull off in 2020. This group of right-wing justices, 5 of them elevated to the Supreme Court by a president who came to office by losing the popular vote, are now in a position to fundamentally change the country. As Elie Mystal, the justice correspondent for The Nation magazine, put it yesterday, quote, "The Supreme Court as an institution defines its own power. It's now run by people who think the federal government was a mistake. And yet people in the federal government are not willing to check this institution. What do you think is going to happen?" And Elie Mystal, author of the best-selling book, Allow Me to Retort, A Black Guy's Guide to the Constitution, joins me now. Well, Elie, you take no pleasure in being right about what this court would be, but this term was the nightmare scenario. The nightmare that all this felt like it was possibly leading to, the nightmare that felt like a little bit put off because they were being a little careful that first term. And there were these decisions that people thought, oh, well, maybe this was it. This was just about as bad as it could possibly be, right?
Yeah, I have this as the worst Supreme Court term since 1857. That's the court that unleashed the Dred Scott decision, which basically unleashed the Civil War. But I don't think we have to go back to 165 years ago. I think we want to go back to 30 years ago to really understand what's happened. 30 years ago, 1992, Planned Parenthood v. Casey, Roe v. Wade is upheld, albeit with new restrictions, in a 5-4 vote. Those 5 votes in the majority were justices all appointed by Republican presidents. In fact, the 1992 court was appointed by had justices, 8 of whom were appointed by Republican presidents. And yet they upheld Roe. Why? It's not like they liked abortion. It's not like they like states' rights. They had a Confederate view of states' rights. The difference is that conservatives 30 years ago believed in practicality. They said repeatedly in Casey that the practical realities of abortion, of what the government can do and can't do, were such that they had to uphold the law just because of the facts on the ground. To defeat Roe, the modern conservatives, what the Republicans realized is that they had to start appointing judges who did not care about the practicalities, who did not care about facts, who did not care about reality itself. And that is how they found justices who are now willing to overturn Roe. And that decision.
That is actually an extremely good point. The modern conservative movement disdains empiricism, disdains any kind of attempt to look at the consequences of policy, right? The conservatives believe that power should be given to people at the top of the hierarchy, and more power faster. Damn the consequences. They would literally rule in a decision that led to the extermination of the human species. They don't care.
Finding justices
Amy,
who are
thanks
willing
for
to
this
do that,
sub.
that's what explains everything else. And once you have a justice that's not willing to look at the practical realities of abortion, that's how you also have a judge who isn't willing to look at the practical realities of climate change, who isn't willing to look at the practical reality of gun violence. What we have, it's like a bad science fiction novel, Chris. It's like when they release an invasive predator to defeat some other predator. We're at the release the bat stage, right? And the problem with those science fiction novels is that once the thing finishes eating whatever you sent it to eat, it keeps feeding. And that's all these conservatives are going to do. They're going to keep feeding on the rights and dignity of others until somebody in the government, somebody in the other branches of government stops them.
Well, let's talk about that, and that's a apt metaphor. I think Rob Roberts himself is probably going to be on the table pretty soon for their delectation. I mean, you mentioned Dred Scott. We quoted from Lincoln's first inaugural, which is a fascinating text, because Dred Scott, of course, which basically says that black people have no rights, that you can escape slavery and be whisked back, but not only that, but that just the Constitution was meant for white people, essentially. That is a radicalizing moment. It helps to precipitate the Civil War. It helps to precipitate the formation of the Republican Party. And one of the first things that Lincoln has to do is bring the reactionary court to heel. He expands the court. The other big example of this, of course, is the Lochner-era court, which in the New Deal is striking down legislation over and over again. FDR famously tries to expand the court. There's a huge fight over it. He loses that fight, but there's some evidence to suggest the court was intimidated by it and basically reverses their jurisprudence. What's the lesson there about what checks a court that is sort of dead set on this kind of like reactionary marauding?
The court has no money, it has no power to tax, and it has no army. The person who can stop the court is the executive of the United States, the president of the United States. But right now, and I wouldn't say that I'm angry at Biden right now. I am sad. I am sad that.
Oh my. Just when a lib is saying something where you don't want to interrupt them. Just when a lib is saying something like, wow, this is good. This is good. This is good. This is good. I don't have to interrupt. I don't have to mold. I'm not mad that Biden is a fucking loser. I'm sad. Oh, home. I'm so sad. Anyway, I'm not going to mock him too much more, but Ellie, come on, man.
Right now, because you know who remembers 30 years ago? Joe Biden. Joe Biden remembers the hokey past of bipartisanship, where he could reach out to conservatives who were concerned about practical governance. Those people don't exist now.
I mean, I think that's an outright lie, honestly. I think it was just white supremacy was more entrenched. So Joe Biden didn't suffer consequences for being a white supremacist in the policies he was making. In fact, he was rewarded. Now, he's not.
Now, but Joe Biden never got the memo. And so I'm sad that in this crucial moment, we have a president who is unwilling, who is so ossified in his past thinking that he won't stand with his people at this critical moment to take power back, not for himself, because he doesn't matter, but to take power back for the American people from these unelected, unaccountable judges.
I mean, it's just sad, pathetic, same old shit. Bipartisan shit for what? The crime bill? Yeah, exactly. We even got a white supremacist in chat. Maybe we can get his opinion. What do you think? Oh, I didn't even see this. We have one? Oh, well. Mods are very tired, okay? The mods are very tired. Let them sleep, okay? Let them rest. Let the mods rest. Are you watching the stream unsubbed? You're making income inequality worse. You are doing anti-praxis. We are the only Twitch stream that will not accept scam advertisers, and I will never fuck you over by selling you crap.